And welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. We're live on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air on DSTV channel 421, GoTV is channel 144. We are JoyNews, independent, fearless and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, COVID-19 cases spike again, raising concerns about public safety. This afternoon on The Pulse, we examine what may be accounting for the latest trend, which experts believe could be taking us into a possible fourth wave. It's all coming up here on The Pulse. Meanwhile, in Parliament, minority is calling for the dismissal of the finance minister over what they claim is his failure to account for the COVID-19 expenditure.
Outstanding questions for the minister responsible for finance, and sometimes at the last minute, he won't show up. In any jurisdiction, this man would have been fired long ago.
More from the minority shortly. We're also live to Parliament for the latest on this and a call for calm. Member of Parliament for Bantama urges students of Islamic SHS in the Ashanti region to use peaceful means in getting their concerns addressed.
Since I came, I've had the opportunity to speak to the case, and I have told them that their primary responsibility of being here is to study. If there is any issue, they should report to their teachers, and the teachers will also in turn report to us.
And we'll have more details for you. My name is Blessed Sogah, and The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digging Loo, affordable safe sanitation. We're streaming live on all of our social media handles and also on YouTube. Please stay for details. Well, 141 new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in Ghana, taking our active case count to 1,064. Now, the latest turn of events is being described by some experts as a possible fourth wave, hence the need to put in place preventive measures to contain the upsurge. So let's bring you the figures now as we have them on your screens now from the database of the Ghana Health Service, indicating that a total of some 141 new cases have been confirmed, taking our total case count, as you see there, active cases to some 1,064 cases. In all, 164,000 cases have been confirmed across the country. 1,445 persons dying as a result of the COVID-19 infections. And so far, we've had 160,823 persons recovering from the COVID-19 virus. But if you look at the regional distribution, obviously, Greater Accra remains the hotspot of the virus. And there are some experts who are raising concerns that obviously this situation may be taking us to another wave of the virus. Fortunately, we've been joined by Dr. Michael Owusu, who's with the Noguchi, who's a virologist and an expert in this matter. He understands a lot of the figures and what the trend actually means for the country. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time. So first of all, what do these figures mean? 1,063, 64 cases. Are we safe as we speak?
Yeah, good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to all your viewers. So, I mean, to say we are safe is something we have to weigh as a country to really tell how far we want to go with this particular pandemic. But the numbers you see clearly shows that we are now beginning another wave. I think more of a fifth wave that starts just like many other waves have started. And for those of us who have been studying this trend of the virus, as we always mention, that every wave is driven by new variants. So, I mean, the last time we had Omicron, but this Omicron has about 5 sublineages. And the sublineage 3, 4, and 5 seem to be accounting for a lot of the waves across the world. And in Ghana already, I mean, there has been records of the B4, B5 variants in circulation. So I'm not too surprised that we are likely to get into a full-blown fifth wave. And this is also could be contributed by already the relaxed conditions and the mask that is not being worn as we used to do earlier. And, the social distancing and the need for people to be more careful with how they handle themselves. So once you have these behaviors already not being adhered to, then, of course, if you have a new variant coming, it will just it will not take much time. It will just have to run through the population and then account for the numbers that we are seeing.
Interesting dynamics you're pointing to us there, but if we could just take you back to the live map that we have from the Ghana Health Service so we can look at the regional breakdown. Clearly, the Greater Accra region appears to be leading that chart with some a huge proportion of the cases that we have, followed by the Ashanti region. Why is it so difficult containing the cases here in the national capital?
Well, it's to be expected, and I'm not too sure if we can control it. If you have studied from the first wave till now, almost every wave starts from Greater Accra, goes to Ashanti. If you come to Ashanti, there are particular spots which has accounted for the waves, and if you go through the list, you find them. Similarly, in Greater Accra, the same places that accounted for the first, second, third wave are the same that I believe are going to account for this one as well. And because we always will say that these are variants that are imported, they mostly don't come from within the country. So once people come in, majority of them come from through Accra before they move to other places. A majority actually settle in Accra. So the population of movements in and out of Accra is very high. The turnover is quite huge. So it's expected that if you have new variants coming, Accra will be the point that will first experience this before it will disseminate to other areas. So it is not surprising. It is just following the normal trend we have seen before. And this only tells us that, look, if you have to control this well, then you have to start from hotspots like we have done, vaccinate these hotspots well, ensure that people adhere to the precautionary measures, ensure that the social distance is well adhered to, and ensure that people put on masks, especially in the hotspot zones. And these are clearly mapped out, and we know. And therefore, I think at this time we should be better prepared to ensure we reduce the active transmission even than before, because the data is available and we know what to do. And should not sit down for this to run through the population
I'm interested in finding out your thoughts on this. Some experts are saying because we did not get the vaccination process right, in other words, we gave the first doses, the 6 months period or deadline elapsed, and then we have quite a huge number of people not getting their booster. So possibly that could be accounting for the resurgence in the cases that we're seeing. Is that far-fetched?
Well, I don't fully agree with that. If you study these current variants accounting for this, this is mostly occurring even among vaccinated populations across the world. Countries that have achieved close to 80-90% vaccination coverage are experiencing waves as a result of this new variant. So you cannot really say that it's because we delayed or did not vaccinate, that's why people are having these infections. I mean, what the vaccine does is that, yes, the infections will come in, but then you may not have severe illness or possible death. And this is what is good about these pandemics. If it's about infections, yes, people will have it. But then to suffer to the point of being admitted and dying as a result of COVID is what the vaccine, works best against. And therefore, I think that people should get vaccinated, but the focus must be that you don't get severe disease, you don't die, or you don't become hospitalized because you have taken the vaccine, and not because of infection. So we have to distinguish between these two things and ensure that we put this in the right perspective.
Initially, there was no clear answer for this, but are we clear now as to the scientific reasons for which persons who are fully vaccinated still contract the virus?
Of course, we have known this before, that these viruses are still able to infect and cause some level of disease among those who are vaccinated. But this is mild. So what we are seeing nowadays is mild, especially among vaccinated population. They don't experience severe disease and they are not likely to die. But for those who are unvaccinated, they may have severe form of the same virus strain and are likely to die. And that is what we have to understand. So once we encourage people to vaccinate, they should vaccinate not because they will not be infected. They should vaccinate because even if they are infected, their chances of having severe disease and dying will be drastically reduced. And this is how we have to get the communication to the public.
And I want us to once more take a look at the interactive map from the Ghana Health Service in terms of the distribution by sex. You have more males attracting the COVID virus as compared to the female population. There you have it 38.1% as compared to a significant 57% in terms of the cases that we've recorded so far. Is it the case that the men are not adhering to the protocols?
Well, as I said, the trend has not changed. You already know that a lot of them, if you have to look at the breakdown of the data, these are young, active men that are interacting and are not likely to adhere to protocols and may be more relaxed and may do things that will obviously expose them to these infections. Unlike our female colleagues who are much careful, likely to adhere, not likely to engage in so many active activities. And we also mentioned before that the virus itself has some level of preference for the male gender because of the way the mechanisms.
That's a really interesting point.
Of course, I mean there are at the cellular level, you could see that females and some level of hormones in women gives them some natural level of protection against being infected and having severe disease. This is known before. I mean, this SARS-CoV-2. So we will advise that, I mean, if you are a man, you have to be very careful not to engage in things that will overly expose you and to ensure that you are more careful with the way you handle things. So females are more protected, and we know, I mean, compared to males. And therefore, the men, we have to ensure that we adhere to the protocols very well.
Interesting points there. Let's talk about government measures now. Initially, we got the target of some 20 million vaccination population target which the government put out there earlier. That target has not been achieved, and we are witnessing what you, the experts, are telling us could be another wave. Is that likely to have an impact on government's targets?
Yeah, so I mean, this has been a difficulty across. If you have monitored government intervention throughout this pandemic, especially within the first quarter of this year, they've done their best to procure a number of vaccines and to organize a number of vaccine campaigns. But you will see that the public response towards this has not been in an exponential or linear fashion, to put it in a way. I mean, as the vaccines come in, you expect people to respond by taking the vaccine more, so you will be able to cover through the population. But then people are just unwilling, especially when the cases went down previously. They just thought that the COVID was gone. So if COVID is gone, why take a vaccine? And you get to a point where some of the vaccines even got expired. So as we speak now, I know vaccines are available, but then to get people to take the vaccine is the major hurdle we have, because people talk that the virus is no more coming. So we have to continue the public campaign and encourage many people, as many as possible, to still take the vaccine. Like we said, it's not because you'll not be infected, but then you take it because even if you are infected, your chances of having severe disease and dying will be drastically reduced. And this message is what must sink well with people. If you have huge vaccine coverage, you have huge opportunity of protecting the life of your population. You may have high numbers, but then the sickness and the death will go down. And we have to support the government in this direction. I know as government does what to bring the vaccine, we, the public, have to do well to respond in a fashion so that we will be able to cover and protect, especially the vulnerable who are within our population.
It's generally not a good time for us as a nation. We're having to deal with the monkeypox virus as well that we're learning of. I mean, what's accounting for the emergence of this new variant of COVID and then the monkeypox? Is it more about the weather or the times and seasons in which we find ourselves?
Well, it's not just about monkeypox and COVID. You also know that we are having problems with influenza, the H3N2 variant, which is coming through swine. Swine that have these viruses in them getting out into the population. But this raises concern about human interaction with the ecosystem and trying to invade into animals, protective areas, which is what is accounting for a lot of these things that we have. And also population gathering and population interaction and the way we behave. We believe and thought COVID would change our life and enable us to live in a more healthy way and imbibing in the good protocols we have learned. But you have also seen clearly that we have not learned much from COVID. I mean, monkeypox is a zoonotic virus that comes from animals. I mean, bushmeat, interaction, squirrels and bats and all these. They harbor these viruses, and then we interact with them and get into the population. But it's transmitted through body-to-body contact. and through respiratory droplets.
Yeah.
So if people were putting on masks and were sanitizing their hands, this virus will not travel far. It will just be killed along the line. But the same processes and the same behaviors that allowed COVID to thrive is the same processes and mechanisms that is going to allow monkeypox and then influenza to also thrive.
Okay, so it's
once
fair
we
to
are not
then,
willing
it's
to
fair, I'm
prevent-
sorry, but it's then fair to assume that once we get the COVID-19 protocols right, then we're in safe hands in terms of controlling the monkeypox and other viral infections that may come up.
Exactly. This will work very well because the alcohol sanitizers are able to destroy the monkeypox virus the same way they destroy the SARS-CoV-2 viruses. It works perfectly. So it's the same mechanism. Viruses are viruses, irrespective of the name. So the same preventive protocols work for all of them. So this is why we keep urging the population that we don't drop what we have learned. The good things you have learned, keep up with it and add more. But if you want to reverse the things we have learned and then openly embrace the old lifestyle, then we have stand a risk of having things like monkeypox and other things cause community infection even to the point of becoming pandemic, because human beings are not willing to change.
Right.
So the virus are telling us to change, and we have to respond and ensure that we do what is right.
And one of the known ways by which the virus was controlled at the time when we're peaking was the use of the face mask. It appears that the public has gone past it in terms of adjusting their lifestyle and moving past the use of the nose mask. How do we get the public back into that mood and acceptance for the nose mask or the face mask?
Yes, I think we have to continue the education. People must understand that this is something that we have to live with for a long time. And we should not be in a hurry to get this off and just throw it out and get back to normal. I'm very sure that even after monkeypox, we are likely to have other variants of viruses that may come in that may likely ride through the respiratory portal. So, covering the nose and mouth, that's a lot. And you could see even case of meningitis has gone down because the bacteria that cause meningitis are also transmitted through respiratory droplets and through respiratory portals. So we need to let people understand that, look, we are not in good times. The entire world is not in good times. And therefore, we need to do what we can to protect our lives. And we must educate the public. And where there is a need for us to step up our interventions, for instance, the government coming in to re-announce that, look, people must do their best. People must put on some of these masks at protected places in healthcare facilities. It must be mandatory. And this is what we keep announcing. You cannot just move through the facilities and where people are being taken care of, take off your mask and interact. You only contract the virus and send it back to your house. So we need to look at some of these protocols. And I believe that if you're able to deal with this well, we wouldn't be talking about monkeypox or influenza or cholera or meningitis. We can get these things out of our system if only we are able to implement some of these best practices that we have learned over the years.
Anyway, I thought that would have been the last one, but let's wrap up on the possibilities. Is it possible for an individual to contract COVID at the same time monkeypox? I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, it's possible, very, very possible. I hope that nobody gets to that level, but it's something that cannot be ruled out because, as I said, the monkeypox virus, the primary route of transmission is through body-to-body contact. So when you shake hands, when you kiss, when you hug, when somebody's body, you get it. You easily contract this. And the same portal, if you inhale respiratory droplet from somebody who also has COVID, you also get COVID. So the SARS-CoV-2 is an RNA virus. The monkeypox is also, a monkeypox virus, a DNA virus. And the two can coexist in the body and have different routes of pathogenesis. And they can cause very damaging effect on somebody who has the two combined. So even monkeypox in advanced state can cause pneumonia and can shut down the lungs. So we have to learn how best to put in some of these protocols to protect our lives. And the public must understand the direction of the Ghana Health Service and must walk along this so that we'll all be safe
Anyway.
in this world.
Right. Doc, thanks. That's why you're the expert anyway. I'm grateful for your time. Well, let's take you to Parliament now. Minority MPs are calling out the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, for failing to appear before the House to answer questions on the COVID-19 expenditure from the MPs. Now, according to the business statement for the week and Wednesday's provisional order paper, Ken Ofori-Atta was expected to answer 16 questions, including accounting for COVID-19 expenditure. But this morning's order paper has the finance minister's name missing. Ranking member of the Health Committee, Kwabena Mintah Kando, says the finance minister is evading accountability.
I mean, that has been his nature. I'm not surprised. There are a lot of outstanding questions for the minister responsible for finance, and sometimes at the last minute, he won't show up. And that has been his nature since the beginning of this session. And so I'm not surprised he has done it again. And for me, in any jurisdiction, this man would have been fired long ago.
By the president?
By the president. You see, he is not being fired by the president because he's keeping the parochial interest of the president. Because tell me one single reason why this finance minister should be in office by now.
The president is simply satisfied with the performance of this minister.
Yes, are you satisfied? The hardship we are going through today, are you satisfied? The inflation today and the economic conditions we are in today in Ghana can only be likened to the 80s. You know it. You know the exchange rate now. If you don't know, I can tell you, I can help you. Now, as I speak to you now, you need more than 8.12 Ghana cedis before you can get $1. That's how terrible it is. And the man is still in office. It is because he's keeping the parochial interest of the Akufo-Addo's family. Not you and I. They don't care. If he really cares, and this man has any conscience, he will not have the guts to go and sit on national television and be defending the building of cathedral. Whilst countless number of these people, NAPCO people, have not been paid, whilst the National Health Insurance Authority, the fund, has not been paid, 2001 is still outstanding. We are in the 6th month of 2022. Not a penny has been paid with respect to 2022. We are using the money to build cathedral.
Well, there's more from Kwabena Mintah Kando, who says his side will not give up on exacting accountability from the finance minister.
The finance minister, who has not yet accounted for COVID expenditure, who has distributed the COVID money like a roasted granite, but when he was sick, when he had COVID, because he belongs to the bourgeoisie class, he flew out of this country and attended one of the most expensive hospitals in the world. In the world. Yet, he will not release the pesos that is supposed to go to the National Health Insurance Authority, so that if you and I, if any of us is sick, he can comfortably use your National Health Insurance card to go for treatment or to go for health care. This is the man at the helm of affairs.
Okay, so finally, you I think within this session, your side has tried to get an investigation of a sort into COVID-19 expenditure. Yes. Now that the finance minister is not coming, do you think a kind of committee?
The question I have seen on the order paper for me, and in my humble opinion, is a leading question. You cannot come by a question and account. Listen to the words. An account for COVID expenditure. This is an exceptional expenditure. We are talking in excess of 25 billion per the rules of the House. If you ask one supplementary question, you can't ask any. Okay? And questions are limited. Mr. Speaker can decide to take about 4 questions per a question on the order paper. You think 4 or 5 questions would be able to resolve COVID expenditure? We need a bipartisan probe into the entire expenditure and the receipt of COVID money. For me, the question on the order paper is not enough. But of course, I'm not on prayer, and look at the way they came. It's another prayer, the chief whip, who is leading him on a leading question. So at the end of the day, they will use parliament to clear themselves and say, oh, he has accounted for COVID money. That is the procedure, and we will not accept that. Of course, he is a member of parliament. I cannot prevent him from asking a question. He has a right to ask a question, but that will not suffice for an accountability on the COVID expenditure. That will not suffice.
Time now for us to expand the conversation. Is there really lack of transparency in terms of the COVID-19 expenditure, and what should government be doing about this? Joining me now is Sogah, a member of the Parliament's Health Committee on the side of the minority as well. And then we have Dr. Emmanuel Ayifa, Deputy Country Director for St. Ghana. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Let's start off by understanding the exact concerns of the minority. Sogah, you understand what it is that your ranking was talking about. Many would say that you have a fine opportunity when the budget statement is presented for you to know the exact amount government has expended on COVID-19. Why then are you using special questions and urgent questions in the House to try and get some answers?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and a very good afternoon to your viewers. The reasons why we are, in fact, we are not comfortable with how COVID monies were received and the nature of the expenditure. This week, the Health Committee is embarking on some kind of oversight meetings with agencies under the Ministry of Health. And when we went to Kolebu told us government still owns them 5 million Ghana cedis. For what? COVID expenditure. Expenses they incurred in treating COVID patients. Then when we asked, the doctors present told us government owes them. Monies promised them when they were frontline staff. Insurance not paid. So the question was, so much money came in by way of COVID. Understanding what of this money being used. Why take the 2021 budget with me here? And I go to page 273. All the expenses government intends spending on COVID have been explained here, total amounting to 19.3. Some have been allocated to certain institutions, block amounts. Come and explain this. How did you disperse this money? How did the institutions use the money? It has been a problem. When you come to 2022 budget, same. You have original budget allocation, provision of free water and electricity for lifeline consumers, 200 million Ghana cedis. Self-explanatory. National COVID-19 response, 597.65 million. What is that? It's in the budget, 2022 budget.
So what's the question? You doubt the finance minister?
So the question is, finance minister, you received $1 billion from IMF. You received 430 million cedis from World Bank. You came to Parliament and you asked us to allow you to withdraw $250 million from what? The stabilization fund. You went to Bank of Ghana to take some money, 10 billion Ghana cedis from there. What did you use this money for? Should it be a problem? Should it?
So is it not the case? Could it not be the case that you're not patient enough for the finance minister to account?
For how long? And you know, you've not accounted for all these monies you've taken. Then you come back to us saying you should give you 75 million euros. You've not accounted for what we gave you. You are coming for more. Shouldn't you be concerned?
Right. And that's why there's a need for us to talk about that trip you've been making, trying to ascertain what's happening on the ground. So we'll talk about that shortly. But let's also hear from Dr. Emmanuel Ayifa on this, who's the Deputy Country Director for St. Ghana. Thank you, sir, for joining us. So you've heard the concerns of the minority. Earlier this year, or somewhere late last year, you raised a similar concern about the issues of transparency regarding COVID-19 expenditure. Is the case different now from the assessment that you have?
Thank you, my brother, for the opportunity. Let me just say that I don't think the minority members of parliament are asking too much. I do not think they are asking too much. Because the fact is that Parliament has oversight over our expenditures. And so they can, in any time, would want to ask, and then the finance minister is supposed to actually to respond to that. Like you indicated, some of the things that the honorable member is highlighting in terms of the sources of the COVID-19 related revenues, these are sources that clearly the finance minister in most instances came to Parliament to seek approval for. So if you sought approval to go to IMF, the World Bank, the EU, Bank of Ghana, and whatnot for such, it also behoves on Parliament, by virtue of their oversight responsibility, also to ask you how the money was spent. So I don't think they are asking too much. If you look into the 2022 budget, what we realize is that in terms of the expenditure, government accounted for up to the third quarter of 2021, which makes sense because the time that the budget was being read, 2022 budget was being read, that was in November. So it makes sense that maybe the last quarter information was not available. But the fact is that we are in the second quarter of 2022. So I don't think that it is out of place for them to ask. Let me just also indicate that even in terms of the World Bank figures, I remember in last year when we were asking of, they indicated to us that, the loan that they got for World Bank was around, I think, 350 or so million. But this year, February, the World Bank country director came to tell us that was rather $430 million, in addition to another $130 million that was contracted basically to procure COVID vaccine. And so the fact is that if you have all these monies, and then we have different figures coming from the World Bank, different figures coming from the finance ministry, it's important that the finance minister comes out to clearly put the right figures out there. Maybe we also need to give him time because the media budget will be coming up very soon. I think somewhere, I think next month or so. And so the fact is that if some of these things are not clearly outlined in the media budget,
Right.
then we can also
Have that opportunity.
Yes, exactly. Because what I realized is that in 2021, they accounted for within the media, they accounted for what had been expended. But it still doesn't negate the fact that Parliament, by virtue of the oversight responsibility, can call the finance minister anytime to account. Accountability is key.
Okay. In fact, there's a lot more we need to look at. Even as we speak in Parliament, we understand that the pressure is mounting for the finance minister to be dismissed. That's the minority is calling for. Briefly, gentlemen, hold on for me. Let's hear from Kweku Asante, our parliamentary correspondent on this. Kweku, why is the minority asking for the dismissal of the finance minister?
Well, blessed Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has ruled that until Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta appears before the House to answer questions relating to COVID-19 expenditure, no further business regarding that ministry will be considered by Parliament. Indeed, if you look at today's order paper, the Finance Minister is requesting from Parliament an approval for a sum of $1 billion for some funding of the 2022 budget. And so that has been stood down as we speak. What happened was, when members of Parliament came to the floor today and they found the order paper, they realized that the finance minister, who was scheduled to respond to questions today, was conspicuously missing from the order paper, and there was no explanations. And so in the morning, we spoke to Honorable Akando, the ranking member of the Health Committee, who said it was the finance minister's stock in trade to always evade answers in a bid to evade accountability, and that his side were going to demand that the finance minister answer questions. And so sitting delayed in the House for like 2 hours before sitting commenced. And when sitting commenced, the first thing that happened was Minority Whip Ahmed Ibrahim raised the issue on the floor and informed the Speaker that concrete action had to be taken by MPs, or the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will continue to take the House for granted in terms of how he comes to answer questions. And so Both sides spoke. We actually heard from the majority whip, Frank Anadompre, who tried to explain that the finance minister was unavailable today, but will be coming to the House next week, Wednesday, to answer questions from the minority and also majority MPs, particularly relating to COVID-19 expenditure. That explanation did not go down well with the minority MPs. They insisted that the finance minister had to come and answer questions, or they will not consider any agreements or any loan agreements from him. In fact, last 2 weeks, the minister had come to the House to seek an approval of an amount to fund COVID-19 expenditure. When that happened, the minority side were able to get that kind of loan agreement stood down, because according to them, the finance minister must come and answer questions. And so the Speaker of Parliament actually suspended sitting for 10 minutes to try and see if leaders from both the minority and majority sides can or could reach a compromise. They could not. When the House resumed, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu was the first to speak, and he requested that the $1 billion facility that Ken Ofori-Atta was looking for should not be considered, because if they did, then the finance minister was not going to respect Parliament. He would think that he can decide not to appear before the House and his business will be considered. But the majority leader, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, appealed that it is not that the minister is evading accountability and that his answers for the questions of MPs are ready, but because of some emergency issues, he could not be in the House today and will be coming next week, Wednesday, to answer those questions. So appealed that they should have some consensus, deal with the $1 billion loan facility that the minister was asking for, but the minority still won't budge. Then the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, had to make a ruling, and his ruling was consistent with what he did 2 weeks ago, that the $1 billion agreement that was advertised on this other paper will not be considered, although it will be referred to the Finance Committee, but will not be considered until the minister comes to the House, answers questions from MPs, a myriad of questions from roads to COVID expenditure in particular. Then the Finance Committee could continue to consider that piece of business from the Finance Ministry. So as we speak, there is a clear ruling from the Speaker that from now until the minister appears before the House and answer questions, no piece of business, no legislation whatsoever from the Finance Minister will be entertained in the House of Parliament. Blessed.
My colleague Kwekwa Santi joining us live from Parliament now. Let's go to Charles Agbeva, because he just pointed out that clearly minority has also been doing some background checks, going to some health facilities. And he pointed out, for instance, Charles, about one of the facilities, which is Kolibu, which you were talking about, some more funds that are yet to be released by government to clear the debts there. Are you getting some more amounts coming through by the day?
Thank you very much, Blessed. When this year, when most of the institutions met us and presented their budgets, you see in every institution some COVID expenditure. We ask them and they tell you they received some money from government for COVID activity, but it was always in arrears. They spent more than what they received. You know, almost all the teaching hospitals, the committee oversights all the 5 teaching hospitals in the country. All of them are owed COVID money. They treated patients, they were asked to treat patients free, they treated them all free, and they are owed those monies. Their frontline staff are owed monies. When you take those ones out, there are other institutions who also presented budgets to government for COVID activities. Yesterday we were with FDA, Foods and Drug Authority. You know, they had oversight on the vaccines that come into the country.
Precisely.
They had to ensure all the vaccines coming in are checked through their labs and make sure they are ideal for us to be vaccinated with. They had given a budget of 10 million Ghana cedis to government. They received only 1.5 million Ghana cedis. And so it's very obvious that the institutions are there looking for their money. So the question you ask With all these monies coming in, how were they dispersed?
So
If
where
any institutions,
do you suspect these monies are going into?
and that's why we want the minister to come and answer. If you want me to talk, really talk, I'll just refer you to one of the MPP regional aspirants in Tamale said. That he got COVID funds, 200,000 Ghana cedis. Is that where they send the COVID money to?
Yeah, but I mean, these are allegations. I guess these are allegations as of now, not confirmed yet, isn't it?
But the person, we all heard it clearly. She said COVID money.
Yeah,
she received COVID money.
She wasn't specific if that funding was coming through from the finance ministry. It wasn't stated in the tape, sir.
But she mentioned COVID.
So your interpretation is that's coming through from government.
Exactly. But so I'm also asking the question: is that where some of the monies went to? This is the question I'm asking. If it is not there, then the minister should just come and answer the question. In fact, 16 questions were lined up for him today. 16 from majority and minority sides. And we had requested that he gives us a statement on inflows that came in by way of COVID and how he spent it. Very simple thing. If he had done that today, I'm sure by now would have been clear in our minds. We should all, my respected panelists have made a suggestion. If it's not ready, or he is busy with media review and he still needs time, the quickest thing to do is to come to Parliament and tell us, I will definitely come and account, but give me time.
Interesting.
We will not refuse, no. But if you keep dodging us, we will think you are running away.
Doctor, let me bring you. Yeah.
Speaker has rude.
Yeah.
Speaker has rude until he comes to actually tell us and account for all COVID funds. We are not going to look at any other monies. We are very satisfied with that ruling.
Right. Let's see how let's see how that will go. Dr. Ifa, the point is, what really would happen to the nation if we don't necessarily know where the COVID funds are going? The argument is it's donor funding anyway, a large chunk of it. So why complaining anyway when the funds is not coming from you or from your government directly?
Yeah, and my brother, the fact is that these are not freebies from the World Bank or from the IMF. These are things that we're going to pay anyway. Let me just read something on the Ministry of Finance website. When the initial World Bank money kicked in, they said that the facility is a 30-year loan and will attract 0.5% interest rate and a service charge of 1.7%. So it's not like these are freebies. If even they are freebies, the fact is that they are meant for specific purposes, and it's important that it is used for that. So I still think that the Minister for Finance needs to come and account for it. The fact is, if you want to contract those loans, you are quick to go to Parliament to get it. But why are you refusing or find it difficult to come and say that, yes, we use the money for A, B, C, and D, but rather you want to go and get more? And so, in fact, if I have to even look at some work we did last year, we did what we call the OBIM budget survey. Every year we do that. But in last year, we decided to focus on what we call COVID-specific open budget survey. And these are some of the issues that came out clearly. Issues of oversight was very bad in terms of rating. And one key thing that we highlighted, which we start with the Minister for Finance, is that so far we know that in times of crisis, corruption thrives. And there's evidence there, not just for Ghana, but world over. And so we thought that it's important for the Ministry of Finance and all its allied agencies to look at the COVID monies critically. We spoke about issues of the Supreme Audit Institution, the Auditor General, in a way that they have to try as much to audit the COVID funds. and none of this has been done as we are speaking to you. An indication we are picking from the current OBS survey still points to the fact that we are not doing well in terms of transparency, accountability, and oversight of our budget in general. But now we are speaking about
this
the
is
COVID.
sorry, but this is from a report you're pointing to.
Yes, the report we are yet to. I made reference to the 2021 COVID OBS, but
Right.
we are yet to release a new one, which is looking at next year. But because normally what we do is that we need to sit with the ministry to look at factual inaccuracies. So I wouldn't want to be speaking to the data with that one yet, because we need to give them the chance to also at least correct some wrongs, as it were.
Right.
So I won't speak to it clearly, but what I'm saying is that the indication we are picking from the current report is not different from what we saw last year. It's not different from what the minority is demanding. And so this is something that Ghana is going to pay in a 30-year loan facility, if I'm just to use what is on their website for. So, and for that matter, we need to account for it. And so they are not asking for too much.
Right. Dr. Ifa, I'm grateful for your time. Let's wrap up with you, Honorable Charles Agbeve. Finally, the belief is if there were to be unity in the House, all of these troubles would have been over. You would have the finance minister come easily to the House and account. You disagree?
There's unity in the House. We only have to build consensus. We will have our say. They will have their way. But the numbers does not give them the opportunity to always have their way. So we must always come to the table and build consensus. And this has to do with our work as the people's representatives. We must oversight the budgets we approve. The monies we give to the executive to spend, we must know how they spent it. I don't think we are asking too much. And it's very important for me. You know, we have a very important bill, the Vaccine Development and Manufacturing Bill, that will enable us to start producing vaccines. It has not still come to Parliament. What is happening to it? And for me, it's very critical. As a member of the Health Committee, I would want to see that bill passed before the end of this year. Seriously. Because it will afford us these challenges we went through trying to get vaccine. You know of the Sputnik V issues. And so, if we have this bill passed, and I must put on record, our pharmaceutical manufacturing companies are ready. We went on inspection on some of the companies. You'll be amazed the kind of equipment they acquire. They want just this bill to take off. And then the regulations.
All right.
Where's the money?
Anyway.
So I don't think we are asking too much.
Yeah.
And I hope next week, Wednesday, that is scheduled for the minister to come. He will come and afford us to understand what actually COVID funds, how much came in, and what the funds was used for.
Thanks so much, Charles Agbeve, a member of the Health Committee in Parliament. As I was about saying that the Finance Ministry has given you assurance that next week he'll be in the House. We'll keep our eyes on that and bring you some updates. But for now, the World Health Organization has revealed that air pollution kills more than 28,000 Ghanaians annually. Project manager of the World Health Organization, Abraham Mwara, added that out of the recorded deaths, some 3,000 children under the age of 5. He's thus cautioning persons living in Accra to be actually worried as the quality of air falls below the acceptable levels. Now, there's more in the following report for you.
The usage of firewood, fumes from car exhaust pipes, road specks of dust and garbage burning, according to the project manager of the WHO, Abraham Imora, are the key causing factors of air pollution in the national capital. A good number of children below 5 years are greatly affected. Here is Abraham Imora.
People in Accra should be concerned. It is unhealthy air that you breathe. In Ghana as a whole, I already said to you, there's over 28,000 deaths, premature deaths from air pollution. 3,000 of them are children children under 5 years old.
Mr. Emura urges government to enact policies that will make cleaner fuels more affordable.
There need to be programs to switch people to cleaner cooking. So clean fuel and more efficient stoves and appliances. Of course, there's a cost to this. So really, the decision makers have to come up with programs to subsidize cleaner fuels so that people can transition.
Programs manager for C40 African Cities for Clean Air Initiative, Desmond Appiah, says there is a gap between the public and sensitization that needs to be tackled.
There's a gap mainly because we have not over the years made a clear linkage between what it means to have poor air quality in terms of health. People sometimes do not see it as an activity that impacts their own health, and that is what the linkage that we have to draw.
A member of the University of Ghana's Department of Geography and Resource Development, Samuel Eje Mensah, argues for the availability of logistics to minimize pollution in the country. The Breathe Life Urban Health Initiative workshop was a 3-day workshop aimed at raising awareness about air pollution among various key stakeholders and promoting the implementation of effective air pollution policies. Ifwa Aprekwa Boafo's report read to you.
And you're still watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. Still to come, a call for calm. Member of Parliament for Bantama urges students of the Islamic Senior High School in the Ashanti region to use peaceful means in getting their concerns addressed.
Since I came, I've had the opportunity to speak to the case, and I have told them that their primary responsibility of being here is to study. If there is any issue, they should report to their teachers, and the teachers will also in turn report to us.
Welcome back. Now, as part of efforts to improve science, technology, engineering and mathematics education in the country, Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize has initiated a program to train basic school students across the country. This, according to the Director of International Development for Nesta Challenges, Constance Ejiman, will help build ICT and entrepreneurship skills among students. There's more in the following report.
Tech Explorer Challenge Prize is an initiative by Nesta Challenges to encourage and support junior high school pupils between the ages of 11 and 16, as well as teachers in Ghana to help them develop practical science, technology, engineering and mathematics, STEM, skills and related products that benefit local communities. Speaking at the launch of this pilot challenge, Director of International Development for Nesta Challenges, Constance Ejiman, explained to JoyNews how the initiative would impact Ghana's STEM education.
G-STEP is really going to complement the STEM narrative because it's going to apply those STEM skills to real-world problems that young Ghanaians are facing. So they will have learned theoretically, they are also starting to learn practically through STEM, but now we are saying, how do you apply those skills and that learning to a problem that you're facing on a day-to-day basis? Is there something in your home that is bothering you? Is there something in your school or on your way to church or something on those lines? If you can identify that problem and you can then think, how do these STEM skills really help me achieve and address this problem, then we are taking it to the next level and adding more value to what is already a good foundation of STEM that is being built up.
She further indicated the need for corporate institutions to support the funds.
The sustainability of G-STEP is really, really important to us because we don't want to establish a program that everyone gets behind, the young children get real value from, and then in a couple of years it's gone. So there's lots of different ways that we're thinking about sustainability, but I do want to say at this point we also do need funding. So in order to keep on and maintain, any possible sponsors or funders out there, we want to hear from you as well.
Some beneficiaries of the program, Joycelyn Adukwa Alote and Lydia Graham, shared their experiences.
GSEP has really helped me a lot. I really thank the leaders of GSEP. I really thank them. Because with GSEP, I'm now able to talk in multitude and I thank them for that. At first, I used to be shy when talking in great multitude, but with the help of G-Step and the master classes we attend on time, I'm now able to talk in great multitude.
Through the first year program, I've been able to get a problem and also find a solution to that problem.
A teacher at the Dansuma Community Basic and Special School, Edward Yaka, however, urged the management of G-Step to increase the number of schools on the program.
The first time I had an encounter with G-Step, it was very amazing. What I realized is they gave most of the students chance to come up with ideas and how to solve it within their community. They should include other regions per se, because we have other people who are also very good in other regions that have not yet been included in what G-Step is trying to do.
Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize is hopeful to extend the program to other regions after a successful piloting exercise, which begins in August. Mausi, Numos report, read to you.
Okay, so let's have some conversation on this. Joining me is Constance Ejiman, who's director of G-Step. Good to be seeing you at this time. So talk to us about the project. You know, when the issue of science and technology comes up, we see that in senior high schools, but we don't bring it down to the basic level. What inspired the G-Step program?
Well, we know that young people, if you can actually inspire them really early, can come up with some wonderful ideas and develop the right types of skills that they need to be successful in the future and to be a real asset to addressing the problems that Ghana faces. So the reason why we have started at basic school level is because we know that's the formative years when critical thinking skills, problem solving, communication are all being developed. And if you can combine that with the STEM education so that people are really thinking about how do I use science, how do I use technology to make a difference in my community, then that is instilled from a very early age, and that will make a huge difference to Ghana's future.
Let's talk about the approach you're using and how many schools you're targeting in this exercise. Let's start off with the numbers.
So for the pilot year, we are approaching every junior high school within the Ashanti region and the Accra region. Our aspiration is to go national, but so that we can make sure that we get the fundamentals right, we are piloting in those two regions. So any junior high school in that region, whether it be public, whether it be special school, whether it be private, can apply to the challenge. We're encouraging young groups between 4 to 6 students to get together, to come up with ideas, to think about the problems, and then start to address them and enter the challenge.
And I'm sure that a lot of parents will be wondering, for instance, what's entailed in this program? What do you take the primary school pupils through to get the aims and objectives that you set out for the G-Step program?
So initially, the young people will form groups. They will bring up ideas. So we're asking them to look at their community. What are the issues that are facing? What ideas can they come up with? We will then let them enter the challenge, and then we will pick this year 25 groups from the Ashanti region, 25 groups from Accra region, and they will become our finalists. Those finalists will receive mentoring and coaching support from professionals in the industries. They will also receive help to prototype their ideas. So we don't just want them to stay ideas. We want them to build those ideas so that they become a reality. So we're going to help them with equipment, technology, so that they can prototype and develop. Once they have done that, they will present to a group of judges, and those judges will then select the winners. But it's not just those finalists. The award is a wonderful thing at the end. The prize is not just for the students, it's also for the teachers, it's also for the school. We want the school to be able to benefit by creating more labs, more ICT units. But even those that don't get through to the challenge, the teachers will have lesson plans that they can continue to use for practical education. The students will have lots of ideas that they can continue to develop their own science clubs, ICT clubs, and we want them to continue to build on those ideas and have an opportunity.
I was going to ask about the intent behind the competition, particularly when you want to encourage more and more persons to going for STEM. Why not just roll them on board, train them without necessarily putting a price to it?
There's always an interest in incentivizing and encouraging.
Right.
And the theory behind this is that if you can get young people to form groups, really know that there's something that they're driving towards, it will incentivize them to do more. So as I said, the prize is an incentive, but the journey is what is important. It's not necessarily the goal.
Right.
The goal is to build the right skill sets, communication, team working, problem solving, and give the children an opportunity to have practical hands-on experience for STEM education. Unfortunately, a lot of our teaching is still, just by virtue of the way it is, rote teaching. And so we're really encouraging, and we know teachers are crying out for more support in how they can do practical education and how they can support their young people in a more practical way to learn. That learning sticks better. That's our ultimate goal. Let's build the next series of leaders, inventors, entrepreneurs in Ghana. Let's start them at an early age so that when they're in that space, they're able to fly because they've developed the foundational skills that they need.
So let's talk about the opportunities for schools and what the timelines are. How do they get to, how do they get to enroll for the program, and what are the timelines?
Okay. So the prize has launched now. We launched on Tuesday. So any junior high school student and teacher can go onto gstep.org.gh and then download and look at the information where there's clear timelines on there. So between now and August the 4th, everyone can start to ideate and enter. We want as many entries from those schools as possible. Beyond that, we then select the finalists. And the finalists will work on the prototype up until the end of November, and then December we'll be making the announcements about the awards.
For those who are not really much in tune with the excitement that comes with it, just give us an idea of some of the fun activities that would accompany this.
So we've already this year, when we were leading up to this, done a range of hack events for teachers and for students where we have given them a range of materials like science kits from our partners and let them actually get hands-on of building the prototypes. So we've had some wonderful things, security systems being built, recycling receptacles, lighting systems for dark roads. So there's lots of problems that we experience every day, and this is a wonderful way as a team to get hands-on, really build and make those things and take it from the theory into practice so that they can see that they have the potential to really make a difference in the future.
Constance, I'm hoping to be there to get more innovation on how to protect my phone, I guess.
I'm sure there will be an idea for that.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us. We're grateful. The Urban Routes Department has actually been explaining its failure to actually readily respond to the request by the Islamic Senior High School for the construction of speed bumps in front of their school. Now, Regional Director Francis Gambra says the office, upon receipt of the complaints from the school, is yet to investigate and prescribe the right intervention to address the concerns. Ohim Interior is on the ground and now reports about the situation.
The authorities have been accused of turning deaf ears to appeals for erection of speed bumps on the Abreport Junction Barakesi Road. Students of Islamic Senior High School in Kumasi poured onto the streets in protest against vehicular knockdown of students and teachers.
We saw the policemen following, and then they started releasing bullets.
A clash with crowd control police led to the hospitalization of 38 students who suffered difficulty in breathing and shock from tear gas. The Abreport Junction stretch of the Kumasi Barakesi Road has been under construction since 2018 with the application of asphalt overlay. An improved road network means drivers have the laxity to speed. The ongoing construction works has its attendant life-threatening risk to pedestrians and other road users as marking and speed calming facilities are yet to be installed. Pedestrians are exposed to risk in attempts to cross to other side of the road.
Zebra crossing. I was saying,
pedestrian knockdowns are common among students at Kumasi Girls and Islamic Senior High Schools, as well as the Bushen markets. The Department of Urban Roads says it has identified lack of road markings. speed calming facilities and the size of the road, which measures about 16 meters, are some of the factors that put the lives of pedestrians at risk. The Urban Roads Department says it took the concerns of Islamic Senior High School up after it came to its attention a year ago by commissioning investigations into pedestrian accidents on the stretch. Engineer Francis Gambra is the Ashanti Regional Director of Urban Roads Department.
Our assessment revealed that the road is wide. It also would agree that works commenced on that road, and the outstanding works to be done on that road is road line markings. So in our assessment, we're going to do the road line marking in addition to some traffic calming measures at some selected locations on that particular route. We have about 5 major areas that have been recording a number of accidents because of the improvement in the road conditions. The Islamic school is one, the Bushai market is one, Kumasi Girls is another problem area.
As road networks in Ashanti region receive facelift, there have been calls for provision of speed bumps, especially in school zones. Among them are the Santasi roundabout Opokuwari School Road, the Fumesaja Chimkwanta stretch, and the Tanosoya Santua Girls Ebuakwa Road. The Urban Roads Department says not all pedestrian accidents demand speed ramps. So what goes into the construction of speed ramps?
Normally, we will receive requests that give us speed ramps. We will need to do an assessment because from road safety experts, it is not only speed calming measures that reduces incidences of accidents. You need to appreciate that on every road, there are places that are designated for pedestrians to cross. If you don't use those points, then the propensity that you're involved in a crash is high. And this will not be enough provision to say put on speed bumps or just calm the traffic. It is not automatic that once we record an accident, then the only solution available is implement speed calming or put in place speed ramps.
The Inspector General of Police, George Akufu-Dampare, procured these fisherman's rope to be used as an interim measure to reduce pedestrian knockdowns. But the Urban Roads Department says work on construction of permanent speed ramps will begin early July.
We have identified all these things and we expect to roll out a program to put some engineering measures to improve this in the early third quarter of this year.
For now, students and teachers of Islamic Senior High School will have to contend with a temporary provision by the IGP. From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Oinminteria reporting.
Well, following riots on campus, a Member of Parliament for Bantama, Asenso Boachi, has paid a working visit to the school. He's been urging students to use peaceful means in addressing their concerns.
Since I came, I've had the opportunity to speak to the case, and I have told them that their primary responsibility of being here is to study. If there is any issue, they should report to their teachers, and the teachers will also in turn report to us. There are other challenges that the school are facing, which I've had opportunity to be briefed. Is the siting of a filling station, which is right by the school, and that has serious future implication. So I've asked, I've engaged the student, the management, and I intend to engage National Petroleum Authority to find out why that filling station was sited and whether it was right for it to be sited, and if it can be removed, it has to be removed so that we avoid any future catastrophe. So that is why I'm here. I believe that I've given you enough information for you to be able to. But you, the media, sometimes you also take it easy. Sometimes the way you reported, when I came to the school, the headmaster was surprised because they thought that some of the information that went out were not too good. And I also want to caution, I have been working in the child development, children's rights space for some time. And when issues about children come up like this, any action that we take, we must take into consideration the interest of the case. You see, it could be very traumatic to see people lying down like that, kids lying down like that, and it being transmitted around the world. That's not how we manage stories about children and children development. So let's exercise restraint when we are dealing with children matters, because it can affect their development and their future.
We spoke about it.
Of course, the school has been growing because it's a very good school and it's very attractive to not only Muslim kids but other kids from the other religion. Government over the years has been assisting this school. Recently, government has just built a 12-unit classroom block. Government recently also built a dormitory block. They have indicated to me that they are in need of a dining hall. It's something that we will let the Ministry of Education know. As you know, they also have other responsibilities. But as and when finances are available, we should be able to help provide the school with all the other requisite infrastructure that they need to make teaching and learning effective and conducive for the school.
And now, Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources in charge of forestry, Benito Owusu-Bio, has disclosed that should all go as planned, the reconstruction of the old Apiati community will commence on July 15, 2022. Already, residents of Apiati are being housed in temporary structures which were originally planned for the relocation of the Dumasi community in the Presiahuni Valley Municipal Assembly by then mining company Golden Star Resources. JoyNews' Western Regional Correspondent Natalia Kwanza has the rest of the story.
The Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources in charge of forestry who doubles as the chairman of the Apiati Rehabilitation Committee, Benito Owusu-Bio, announced the date for the reconstruction of Apiati during a tour on the old and destroyed community. Benito Owusu-Bio, together with a team of architects, on Wednesday visited Apiati to assess the progress of work relative to the surveying of the old site to inform government on when reconstruction works will commence. A surveyor with the Ghana Institute of Surveyors, Engineer Franklin Ligi Kudonu, who is leading a team of surveyors to work on the old community, revealed that so far 95% of the demarcation and surveying works have been done.
For the demarcation and survey, we've done almost about 90 to 95%, almost completed. And we started with the pillaring, because it's the pillaring that will have the numbers on it to indicate the plots that we are interested in. Because when you look on the scheme, each plot is identified by a plot number. So that is what we are doing now. And for that one, I will say that we are about roughly 30% through. From the look of things, actually, we are running short of logistics and also men to help us do the work, because you could see only few people that you met at the site. Getting the men to help us is a challenge.
Architects working on model houses for the community gave an overview of the project.
The land use plan has been translated onto the ground. So now we are able to pick up the whole extent of the village that we're doing. There's a core area which has about 120 plots. These have been set out on the site. We've defined the road network too, so we are ready to go. We are hoping that very shortly urban roads will come in to come and do the road network. Concurrently, we are almost completed with the pre-contract drawings from AESL. Based on that, we'll quickly go out and choose probably about 3 contractors to complete with the core area. At the same time, too, we've brought the electricity company in to come and also define their lines. We've got Community Water and Sanitation Agency in to also come and define the water network. So we are very, very much on course. In fact, I think what we've seen this morning, we are very happy. The surveyors have done a brilliant job. We've walked around, we've seen where the road networks are, we've seen where we are going to be putting up all the houses. So we are very much on track. And we hope to be able to deliver the community of Apiati in a very short time, hoping that we'll start construction almost immediately, at least by the middle of July. Concurrently, we are doing the pre-contract documents. ASL won the bid to do the consulting works and the supervision. They've also done a brilliant job. The design of the houses are ready.
Benito Owusu-Bio and the team later visited the affected residents at their temporal place, where he assured them that government is working assiduously to get them back to Apiate as soon as possible.
This is the team, that is the Apiate construction team. We are here to also verify the surveyors who have been sent to the field to do some interpretation of the layout onto the ground. So at least we can have the setting out, and then when the contractors come to start the construction, they can go ahead and then do it. We have been working in the office. Those sort of work and processes need to be done before we come to the field and then start the actual construction.
For Joy News, in Athalia Kwanza, Apiate.
And our food staff for some caterers under the school feeding program rotting away as the caterers continue to stay away from cooking for school pupils. Now, the withdrawal of the services is in demand for an increase in grants for feeding from 97 pesos to 3 cedis, as well as the delay in payments of the grants. Some caterers who received supply ahead of the strike have watched on for the food staff to rot away. Nanaya Ojima has been monitoring the situation in the Ashanti region and filed this report.
The school feeding program was initiated in 2005 by government in collaboration with Dutch government, aimed at increasing school enrollment through the provision of one hot meal for every student. It has been sustained for the positive impact on education since inception. In the compound of a home at Eija, caterers are busy cooking for 500 pupils of Eija Basic School. Today, a local delicacy, Tiozafi, is on the menu. The 4 caterers here are busy ensuring the food is delivered at lunchtime. They are the only caterers who have refused to withdraw their services despite the decision by the group.
Considering the food stuff I have in my storeroom, I will run at a loss if I refuse to cook.
I
cannot return them to the supplier too. It will be prudent for me to use them so that I add it to my claims.
Abna Jemfua, who leads these caterers, takes me to the storeroom where she has bags of rice, beans and gari stocked, both vegetable and palm oil, as well as fish, among other perishable items, are part of the stock. She explains persistent rise in prices of foodstuff should be complemented by increase in the feeding grants.
The foodstuffs are very expensive now. Oil sold at 180 cedis is now 500 cedis. Rice is also very expensive now. If government refuses to increase the grant, it will be difficult to continue this work.
Per arrangement of the program, caterers are paid arrears of the previous term in the new one. Presently, the caterers are owed 3 terms. Abna Efriye, who described herself as a staunch member of the New Patriotic Party, says some of her produce had to rot away in the protests.
Tomatoes and gari. It is
Most of the ingredients in my storeroom are not perishable. Those who had beans and others had to dispose them. I have disposed a carton of canned tomatoes because they had expired.
Adaka na say e mama so na mato atwen fi say aye no esoro no aye ti say de ase de ehuru na de no pese aye bibisa na mhwedi na mse na peja aye me dem to.
In the heart of Kumasi sits the state experimental basic schools. Cooking pots and utensils of the caterers are dumped in the school's kitchen empty as the caterers here remain on strike. At Nobewem Presbyterian Basic School, pupils on lunch break are relying on the food sold on the premises of the school to satisfy their hunger. Others have to share their drinks with friends. The shed under which the caterers cook, just like that of State Experimental School, is empty. Mary Boadu, who is a caterer, says students sometimes visit her home to ask why there is no lunch for them.
Some children came to my home to verify if the program has been cancelled. I told them we are negotiating for an increase because food items are expensive.
Some parents have had to make up for the feeding demands of their children by increasing their pocket money. Together with consistent rise in the cost of transportation for their wards, Priscilla Agbeko says the cost of living has become unbearable.
I used to give my son 4 cedis for feeding and 6 cedis for transportation. But because he's not fed by government, I have to give him more.
First break to second breaker on me. It is on school feeding now. It
is unclear when government will reach an agreement with the caterers for them to resume cooking for the children. Until then, attendance may suffer as recorded in some schools. For JoyNews, Nana Yaojima, Kumasi.
Well, Dr. Emmanuel Ifa, Deputy Country Director for St. Ghana, agrees with the request by the caterers for an increase in the feeding grant. According to them, the prices of the foodstuff have skyrocketed in the last few months. He spoke to my colleague, Samuel Kujobrace.
Clearly, we think that government should look at it with all sense of urgency that it requires. Because, one, the caterers are indebted to the banks and other places that they've secured loans to prepare food for the kids. If we do not do that, if we fail, we run the risk of running the whole Ghana food feeding program down. The fact is that if you look at some impact evaluations that have been done out there, a lot of research points to very good outcomes in terms of enrollment, in terms of nutritional outcomes, and even the economy-wide effect. Because, you know, these caterers purchase goods from the local economy market. And so we run the risk of losing all these attendant benefits of the school feeding programs. The point is that government have budgeted for this. And so once you budgeted for it, we expect that, yes, insofar as you prioritize certain things, this thing also needs to be prioritized in terms of the school feeding program. And government should pay heed to the 3 Ghana cedis that they are calling for. I mean, we don't need a prophet to tell us that times are hard, looking at the huge inflation figures that was quoted last week or so. Aside that, we think that going forward, it's important for government to even peg the amount to inflation so that it wouldn't be that every time they have to come talking about it and all that. And then lastly, we think that government, no matter what, should find money to pay the caterers. This is something, they are fighting for something that they work for. It's not something that they've not worked for that they are demanding. And so this is due them. Government should try as much as possible to do that. The caterers resumed their decision to go on strike, I think last 3 weeks or so. They start with government to talk, but government unfortunately has failed on their part, and so we expect government to do that. Other than that, we risk the risk of not having kids attending school, and that is what we are picking up right now.
At least you have a clear idea of why the prices are skyrocketing. But well, imagine having to single-handedly take care of twins right from birth because their mom died after delivery. That's the story of Edmond Teta Akrofi, whose twins turn a year-old next week. As we get ready for Father's Day, Joy Learning's Diana Nuchugan details the journey of the man who says his love for his wife is the reason he'll be a great dad for the twins.
Edmond Akrofi is unable to hold himself together. The memory of losing his wife troubles his mind. His wife died almost a year ago, and everything else in life changed.
I lost my wife after a day after childbirth, after giving birth to our triplets, and she died a day after. It was a Wednesday, 23rd of June, 2021. Through the pains, we couldn't stay at our old location again. We used to stay at Kwabenya. So my family decided that I relocate to this place to have a new beginning with my kids.
Edmund has not reported to work since the incident. He works from home in order to keep his eyes on his children.
We lost one at birth. So currently I have two, a boy and a girl. The boy is the first. And it's not been too pleasant. It's not been easy as well. You wouldn't believe that since my wife died, I've not gone to work before. Yes, I always have to be at home, even though I have nannies who take care of the kids. I have to stay at home just to have an eye on them. The kids are fine because they're the only thing left of my wife's, if you want of better words, memory.
The twins have become his joy and obsession. Akofi is forced to play the roles of a mom and dad to Edwin and Edwina. Feeding them is challenging, but he has found a way around it and enjoys the activity. Although the story focuses on how he is a super dad to his children, he dwelt on his late wife.
Currently, they are on formula, baby formula, and those baby bottle foods. Then I used to do most of the bathing and then the feeding. In fact, the first day I tried it, I almost collapsed. Not because I couldn't do it, but because I've seen it been done several times before. But the emotions were running very high. But thereafter, when I have to change them, especially when they are with me and the poo-poo and I have to do it myself, it's very interesting. It's very funny sometimes. It's very funny.
Edwin and Edwina will be 1 year on the 22nd of June. Being a father to them without the presence of their mother has been challenging.
Sorry.
It feels terrible, very, very terrible. It's an experience you wouldn't want to wish for even your worst enemy. It's a very terrible feeling, not as if you have separated from your wife and you have to do that, but the fact that she's no more and she'll be doing this thing all alone, it's very terrifying. It's an experience you wouldn't want to wish for your worst enemy. But I was told twins, they don't like to be, they don't like people to be sad around them, and so I just try to keep my composure, and then I just try to put up some smile and play with them. So that's what sometimes keeps me also going. So I have to just make sure they are very fine at the time that they'll be fine. The challenge has been unbearable, emotionally, and all of that.
Akofi had the option of leaving his twins in the care of family members, but he chose to hire a nanny and remain involved in his children's lives.
They were born before their due date, so they were in the incubator for about 2 weeks, or yes, and the doctors said sometimes I have to go there every morning, Sunday to Sunday. I'll spend 8 hours doing kangaroo for them. That's the kangaroo. You wrap the babies on your close to on your chest, very close to your body, like you tie them, yes, and then just for warmth. They said it helps in their growth. So that is a kangaroo.
Diana Nuchigas report, read to you.
Indeed, an extraordinary dad. And that's how we wrap up the polls here on the Joy News channel. I am blessed to always check out what's happening online. It's at My Joy Online. That's where you need to be for all of the updates.